Hello and welcome to News9 Plus Show on the world's first news and current affairs OTT platform, News9 Plus. I am Aditya Kaul. India's most wanted gangster and Khalistani terrorist Arsh Dalla has reportedly been arrested by the Milton Police in Canada. The arrest was made after a dramatic brief shootout on October 28th. Strangely though, the Canadian police has not made the information public yet and not shared anything with the Indian counterparts so far. Arsh Dalla, also known as Arshdeep Singh Gill, had taken over the command of the Khalistan Tiger Force after the killing of his close friend and associate Hardeep Singh Nijjar last year at a Canadian gurudwara. Dalla is also believed to be in touch with the Pakistan ISI and responsible for several killings in India. A lookout circular has also been issued against him by the Punjab police in 2020. In 2022, Dalla and Nijjar were linked with the brutal murder of Manohar Lal, a member of the Dera Sacha Sauda. Later in 2024, Dalla claimed responsibility on social media for the assassination of a Congress leader in Punjab. Dalla is also responsible for smuggling weapons from Pakistan to India using drones. Dalla's gang has had a network around Canada, United States, Europe, UAE, Thailand and Philippines as well. Arsh Dalla gang has had the violent clashes in the past with the Lawrence Bishnoi gang. Dalla has also been recruiting youth in Punjab and Haryana for his gang, luring them with money and foreign visits as well. The arrest of Dalla comes at a time when Donald Trump had been appointed as the President of the United States, and Canada doesn't expect the Trump administration's blind support over the Khalistani extremism that has been growing against India and being plotted from a safe haven on Canadian soil. Now to the questions that we are asking on News9 Plus Show. Will Canada take action against the designated Khalistani terrorists now that there's immense pressure on them, not just from India, but from United States as well? Will the Trump administration change its policy, the US policy towards the Khalistani extremists in the new administration? And finally, will the Five Eyes intelligence cooperation be impacted in the Trump administration? And joining me to discuss this and more are Sameer Kaushal live from Canada, who's a senior Canadian journalist. We also have Surender Singh, Laali, political analyst on international affairs. And finally, we have Robinder Sachdev, foreign affairs expert, joining us. Going across live to my friend Sameer Kaushal. Sameer, how do you see this development? Of course, we don't know the details of it yet, of what exactly has happened, and we will probably know in the next few days. But do you really think, Sameer, that the change in the administration in the United States could have an impact on developments in Canada? Let's not forget that elections in Canada are going to be held in 2025, and perhaps the Trump administration's policy towards terrorism, towards radicalization, and towards Canada, and of course the Liberal Party and Justin Trudeau, is anybody's guess.
Thank you so much, first of all, Aditya, for taking me. Let me just tell you, as you said, there's going to be some kind of very big change. For now, we can't say. It is very immature to say anything, whether there's going to be more tougher part by the Liberal government on the crime or some anti-social elements. As far as this news is concerned, as you said, that Arshdeep Dalla has been arrested or has been charged by Canadian authorities. It's not confirmed yet by the official authorities. It's still in the unconfirmed reports that he has been arrested. As far as the content of this matter is concerned, there are certain reports that Halton Police they arrested two persons for some shooting incident, and they haven't confirmed yet the name of any of the arrested person or those who have been charged.
Right.
But what they are claiming that one of the person is 28-year-old from Surrey. So still things needs to be confirmed by the police. So we are waiting for that confirmation. But as far as your question, that now in US there's a new regime, the new president-elect Donald Trump, and he is having a different approach towards the immigration and the crime as well as the economy. Yes, definitely there's going to be a very big turn in Canadian politics as far as the economy is concerned, as far as our new NAFTA is concerned, the North American Free Trade Agreement is concerned. The things are changing in different way. Canada has made their own new a team which is going to deal with economic matters with the new regime. Till January, I think Mr. Joe Biden is going to remain the president of the United States. So still, there are so many things going behind the curtain. The diplomacy right now is going on a very high level as far as the crime is concerned. Canada is, or Canadian people are more concerned about the immigration or the migration influx from United States, as Donald Trump already confirmed so many times on different media platforms that he is going to deport so many illegal immigrants. So I think there's going to be a big surge of those individuals or those elements into the south, the north of the border towards Canada. So Canada is going through so many challenges, and one of the challenges definitely how Canada is going to deal with the antisocial elements and especially with the immigration flow.
Right, but will Trump's victory in US undermine the Khalistan backers really? That's the big question. Surender Singh Laali, I love that Indian tricolor behind you. But as a proud Sikh, as somebody who believes in the core principles of Sikhism, brotherhood, somebody who really does not provoke any kind of terrorism or violence, how do you feel, how this debate has shaped up, be it in Canada, be it in the so-called Five Eyes intelligence? I heard reports of even in New Zealand on 9th and 10th of November, that is yesterday and day before yesterday, there were these Khalistani protests happening against the Indian government and against the Indian people. What do you think that Canada needs to do now? Will Canada really act against these elements?
Thank you, Mr. Kaul. It's a pleasure and honor for me to be here. And I guess you've read my mind. I take pride in being a citizen of India and especially a proud Indian Sikh. But having said that, as much as I'm willing to celebrate and, what recently has happened and Donald Trump's change of regime, but I think the jury's out on this one. It's because these Johnnies have been in the Canadian system like a cancer for the last 40 years. I mean, when, Pierre Trudeau chose not to extradite, upon Indira Gandhi's requests, Mr. Parmar, and had he done that, maybe we wouldn't have lost Air India, Kanishka, with 320 lives, including 84 children. And such was the Freudian slip, if I may say so, by Mr. Trudeau Sr., that he called the Indian Prime Minister to offer condolences, and I don't think he realized that more than 240 people on that aeroplane were Canadian citizens. So if anything, it should have been the other way around, we expressing our condolences. So that ought to give you an idea of the mindset the father and the son, unfortunately, have been living through. They're in the RCMP, they're in the Peel Police, they're in the border security forces. And, the Prime Minister of the country has been beholden to somebody called Jagmeet Singh, who only had 25 seats. So I'm not too sure if I'm willing to have a party tonight and say, oh my God, things are going to change, because something which has been rotten for 40 years. And number two is, of course, I'm happy with Donald Trump coming, but please understand that gentleman is also an extremely transactional individual.
Yes.
So I'm still not willing to celebrate, the Republicans coming into the White House, because please understand little that people may know that this is all intelligence, a selective leak by the Five Eyes, and there are no points for guessing. It's the United States of America, their southern neighbor, who's pretty much in charge and the global boss. So I am positive, but I'm still not going to book my caterer and my DJ, because I think the jury's out on this one.
Well, we'll wait and see that you have that party soon enough, if not in a few days, perhaps in a few weeks. We'll certainly wait for that moment. But Robinder Sachdev, as a foreign affairs expert, we've interviewed you several times. Dr. Jaishankar said something very interesting yesterday that has really gone viral. He was being asked about the new presidency in the United States. And he said, and I quote, Prime Minister Modi's call was among the first 3 calls President Trump took. This is big. I know a lot of countries are nervous about America today. Let's be honest, we are not one of them. So certainly a big message there by Jaishankar, saying that of course Trump and Modi have a different kind of a bonhomie that was visible last time around as well when Trump was the 45th president of the United States. But do you think that on matters of extremism, on matters of terrorism, on matters of online radicalization, etc., there would be much more swifter coordination, acceptability, and perhaps US and India could be on the same page?
Thank you so much. A pleasure to be with you, Honor. Yes, certainly. I mean, that in a sense is a possibility and a higher degree of possibility. But as I think that all our earlier panel have said, I would also more or less go along with that. But yes, what Minister Jaishankar said, yes, India is definitely, if we could say, in a sweet spot. Perhaps we are one of the ones in the sweetest spot, right? I mean, sure, Israel is happy, but you know, there are complex issues out there. Zelensky is very unhappy, and the next one in the unhappiness queue is Taiwan, right? And then Europe is kind of, again, unhappy, worried about trade and tariffs and NATO and all. India, thankfully, fortunately, and the icing on the cake is, of course, Prime Minister Modi and Trump's, chemistry and camaraderie. And a kind of a natural alliance, if not alliance, a natural, parallel path of India and the US as they're the oldest, we are the largest democracy on this planet. Now that said, couple of points. Yes, you see a bunch of these things, specific intelligence things would also depend upon who Trump appoints as the head of the CIA, and the National Security Council, right? Very often in the US, it said that, Reagan said it actually, personnel is policy. Of course, the president directs the policy and all, but it depends upon who the person appointed is. And once that appointment is done, we will look into the antecedents or, the leanings or the past patterns of that individual. So that would be one thing to look out for. But yes, secondly, Trump, as I think mentioned, is highly transactional also. Fine if he were to act a bit more strongly on Khalistan issue, or remember there are cases in the US also which are out there, right? He could say, okay, I'll take a lighter view, softer view, we'll put them in the back burner. What do I get in exchange for this? I mean, he may be a great friend, but he'll say, fine, I could do that. But
as they said, he's transactional in nature, of course.
Yeah, he would absolutely, right? Now, coming to the, so that's there, but at the same time, there's a higher degree of hope that there'll be more, more empathy, let's use that word, empathy, better understanding of India's position by a Trump administration. Of that, there is absolutely no doubt.
Right.
Now, talking of Canada, I think what in Canada we are seeing is a structural issue, is a systemic issue. Even if Trudeau goes, out of the Liberal Party, somebody else Liberal comes, or they lose the next election, the Conservatives come to power. The Conservatives also have a good section which is soft to Khalistan. Their deputy leader, Tim Uppal, I remember on the day of the Nijjar debate in their parliament, he said that, I'm just coming back from the home of Bhai Nijjar by paying my homage to him and condolences to his son, and this, etc. So the Conservatives are also very much influenced, or they find support. If not, you see, Khalistan is two parts. One is the extremist, other are supporting Khalistan but not extremist, and the third are the ones who don't even want Khalistan, etc. So barring the Khalistani extremists, there's a huge chunk out there. So that's a systemic problem. And as I think earlier speaker mentioned, Jagmeet Singh with 24 seats, he's withdrawn support from Trudeau, and that entire party is actually largely, or to a good extent, drawing its support base from the Indian Indo-Canadian community. So this is a structural problem in Canada, which we will not be able to wish away. It will take time. Okay, the next one who comes will be, and also not 180 degree opposite to Trudeau, but maybe there'll be much less, or they'll be much more caring or listening or empathetic, again, empathy with respect to India. So these are a few things. And lastly, I think the first speaker said that Canadians are right now worried about the illegal migrants who will be coming over to Canada after Trump takes office. I think Canadians are equally, if not worried, but they're welcoming a large number of North Americans who will, disappointed with the Trump victory, don't want to live in America, will be moving to Canada.
Well, let's see what happens in the next few weeks and months. We still have few weeks left to January 20th, inauguration that will happen. But Sameer Kaushal, coming back to you, we saw the developments that happened after the incident at the Hindu temple. We saw, of course, the arrest of Indrajit Gosal as well. But immediately after arrest, he was released. What does this really convey? Is the police in the Peel region in Brampton really interested to act, or do you think they are in some kind of a political pressure? Because we've seen that when the condemnation of the act really happened, nobody wanted to mention who was provoking. Were the Khalistanis provoking or were the Hindus provoking? So they just casually mentioned that we condemn the incident without naming any particular group, etc.
To be honest, everybody wants to please everyone in this country now.
Yeah.
Though we have a Charter of Rights, and the Canadian Charter gave this power or this right to every Canadian to hold a peaceful assembly or peaceful demonstration, protest. But the things are going out of hand. We have seen in the past as well. And it's not just only in the past, but if you go a few decades back, the same happenings continued in the past as well. But as far as your question is concerned, whether the authorities are now taking charge or are they taking serious actions or enough serious actions now, I am not very much sure, to be honest with you, because as I said, everybody wants to please everyone, and it's election time, and there are certain pockets of Indo-Canadian diaspora, those who are not happy or satisfied with the police, the action of the police, and the model of the police in different jurisdictions is, it's very different from one another. Some are following the community policing, some are with the federal policing model. So as far as the charter is concerned, everybody's following that.
I want to also ask you, I agree with you that the police in the Peel region in Brampton could be different from RCMP or in Surrey or different areas. But what does it really convey when a police constable or an officer is part of those Khalistani protests? In this case, Harjeet Sohi, who was seen in multiple protests holding banners as part of the, these Khalistani groups. And he might have been suspended under pressure right now when the clips really went viral on social media. But what does this say about the accountability and the credibility of the police in Canada?
Definitely, it's a matter of great integrity, and it's a matter of trust. The trust has been broken as far as the agencies are concerned. It's not just only you or other journalists or those who are saying. One of the member of parliamentarian, Mr. R. Chandra, he has been vocal about this, and he categorically say on social media that our agencies or our different forces are infiltrated with the Khalistan ideology, though this is just an ideology for now, and there are certain people. One of the previous guests, they already said that there are two type of supporters for that. One
Right.
is the extreme radicals, and there are certain silent supporters as well for this ideology. But the forces, especially the police service, the different agencies, having this kind of ideology or influenced with this kind of ideology, definitely there's a trust issue between the masses, who they're gonna report when there's going to be threatening calls from those radicals, or if they find themselves into a position
Right.
when they are going to seek for some kind of justice. I mean, definitely it's a matter of integrity.
It's a matter of integrity, but it's also really heartening to see the Indian community unity that was displayed in Brampton. In many cases, Hindus and Sikh community members really coming out together and asking for justice against the Khalistani radicals and extremists. And that is my question to Surender Singh Laali. Again, I know that you are the lone Sikh panelist here representing the community. But this morning when I woke up, the first video that I received was from an Indian community member abroad of Hindus and Sikhs coming together in Barcelona in Spain in helping the community out there, the locals who were affected by the floods. So, Mr. Laali, these Gurpatwan Singh Pannus of the world, Indrajit Gosals of the world, Khalistan Tiger Force, Babbar Khalsa, Sikhs for Justice, etc. The lone agenda that they have at the behest of Pakistan ISI and others is to break this brotherhood and camaraderie between Hindus and Sikh community. Will this ever happen? And what do you say about the unity displayed by the Indians and Hindus and Sikhs in Canada?
With all humility at my command, I don't think I represent the Sikh community. I represent the Republic of India. I don't
Sure.
want to
I respect that.
reduce myself to, because I'm an Indian first, and then maybe I could wear my religion on my sleeve.
Absolutely.
So
I stand corrected.
It's all right. It's all right. And yesterday I was part of a very large procession slash event where we protested outside the Canadian ambassador's house, and there were
Yes.
about 1,000 people. And I didn't bother to check the religion because end of the day, as I said, we're all Indians. And number three is, please understand that these are fringe groups that Western economies nourish under the bogey of free speech simply to have a more negotiating, tool with us. Mr.
Yes.
Sachdev rightly said that we're in a sweet spot. Why
Yes.
are we in a sweet soft spot only post 1991? I mean, we were a democracy then too, but we weren't required then. That was post Cold War. Suddenly, China and America are going loggerheads, and America wants to negate or control China in the Indo-Pacific. So where else do you go? You go to India. So all of this, there is a lot more, and to geopolitical maneuvering and pressure tactics, and some of the Sikh groups fringe groups that you name, they are simply they're simply a tool that the Western economies use so that they get a larger negotiating tool with us. For example, there is already a case, an open trial in the Southern District of New York where Mr. Gupta has been put behind bars.
Right.
So I feel that as much as Donald Trump is a transactional man, he's just going to ask for his pound of flesh, and that's probably all going to be about. Because please understand that they have Sikh referendums, and Mr. Pannu has a Sikh referendum. What referendum? 85% of the Sikhs live in India. So who are these fringe rogues catering to? And number two is, now that they've attacked the Hindu temple, this has been coming more into light. I, used to study there. So they have been bashing up and hitting these key elements have been hitting the Sikhs for the longest time. They almost split open Ujjwal Dosanjh's head, who was the premier of British Columbia.
Yes.
So they have been creating this mess for a long time. It's just that now with the new muscular policy that we have, and it's all come surfaced. Otherwise, they have been operating there for 40 years, and these groups are nothing else but extensions by the deep state, who purely funds MNO secrets for ISI, and now even China behind it. So this is all part of a large game, and I call this Cold War 2.0.
All right, fair enough. Last word to Robinder Sachdev on the show. Mr. Sachdev, on this issue of arrest of Arsh Dalla, very strangely, Canadians haven't really come out in public about the names of people arrested, their crimes, and nothing so far has been shared with the Indian intelligence agencies or the Ministry of External Affairs. What does this say? That was this perhaps a mistaken identity arrest by the Canadians that they don't want to admit in public? Or do you think in realistic terms, there is some concrete action that is expected?
I'll give it benefit of the doubt for the time being, but very much exactly that was my question in mind at the beginning of this discussion.
Yes.
My thought was that, okay, this guy has been arrested, fine. What intelligence will they extract from him? Right? That is the key. I mean, okay, he's been arrested, but they'll interview him, interrogating, whatever we define the exact term as. They should be able to get a lot of useful information, intelligence from this guy. And then they could be acting further on those leads, right? It's not that if you kind of arrested or charged one guy, you're looking at a whole story to unravel behind that guy. So if the RCMP is going to be doing its job, sure enough, it's been a couple of days only or something. Fair enough. Let's give them that benefit of bureaucratic processing. But within days, I would expect, if not in public, at least that information should be shared back end with the government of India. Then that will show us that yes, they are moving to a systemic method.
All right, fair enough. Thank you very much to Sameer Kaushal, Robinder Sachdev, and of course Surender Singh Laali for putting their perspective on this important issue. Arsh Dalla allegedly has been arrested. Is this really action that has been taken by the Justin Trudeau government in line with India's demands, or is this only perhaps a mistaken identity arrest. Perhaps we will be more clear in the days to come. Over 40 people were killed and 63 injured in a massive suicide bombing on Saturday morning at the Quetta railway station in Pakistan's Balochistan. Most of the casualties were suffered by the recruits of the Pakistan Army from the infantry school. The suicide bombing was claimed by the Baloch rebel group Balochistan Liberation Army, who identified the suicide bomber as Mohammad Rafiq Bizango. Over the last 3 years, there have been a sudden rise in the suicide bombings, attacks and targeted assassinations by the Baloch rebel groups against the Pakistan Army and the Frontier Corps. In a similar attack against the Chinese convoy ahead of the SCO meeting just a couple of weeks ago, several casualties were reported near the Karachi airport. Meanwhile, the Indian cricket team has decided to not visit Pakistan for the Champions Trophy slated to be held in Pakistan in January next year. The tournament is likely to be held in a hybrid format with matches scheduled in multiple countries. Pakistan's Defence Minister Khwaja Asif has pledged tit-for-tat action against India for not visiting Pakistan for the Champions Trophy. Pakistan Defence Minister has also questioned Indians for abstaining from the debate on Kashmir at the Oxford Union in UK to be held on November 14th. Viewers, I can confirm that I was invited for the debate as a Kashmiri and as an Indian journalist to the Oxford Union debate, but withdrew my participation when I was informed about the invite also being extended to a terrorist associate, Muzammil Ayub Thakur, in UK. I find it incredulous that an institution which has such a glorious reputation is seen as a flag bearer of democratic credentials and would do itself incalculable harm by inviting people like Muzammil Ayub Thakur to such an august forum. Much as I would have wanted to participate in the debate, which would be fair and open within the parameters of democratic diligence, it seems the referee represents a certain side. The states of India and Pakistan, as carved out by the British, may be new, but the Indian nation had existed for 5,000 years, and Kashmir has been its cultural, philosophical, and polemic fountainhead. As a Kashmiri exiled at birth who would yearn for peace, it would have been a great opportunity for me to express my views, but I'm afraid that the dice seems already loaded. A great institution, or at least a section of it, seems to have been hijacked by the very forces who are inimical to its foundational values of democracy and debate. Anyways, the questions that now we are asking on the News9 Plus show today. Why has there been a sudden rise in the Baloch attacks in Pakistan? Has the Pakistan Army failed to keep attacks of BLA and TTP under check in both Balochistan and KPK? And will the security situation in Pakistan further deteriorate? Joining me on the debate today, General Satish Dua. He is a defense expert and former GOC of the 15 Corps. We also have senior journalist from Pakistan, Imtiaz Gul. And finally, Francesca Marino, senior journalist and author of Balochistan, Bruised, Battered and Blooded. General Dua, if I can come to you first to understand what's been happening in Pakistan. We've seen continuous attacks, a new front being opened in Jammu. We also saw a lot of attacks happening in the Kashmir Valley from the Pakistani terror groups. But it's unprecedented that in Pakistan, the security situation has been worsening to a level where media friends in Pakistan are telling me this is the second biggest suicide bombing in the history of Pakistan, perhaps in terms of the casualties that the Pakistan Army has received. What does this say about the security situation in Pakistan and, of course, the way things are developing both in Balochistan and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa?
I would like to start by saying that, one is only reminded of what Hillary Clinton had said when she'd come to Pakistan.
Right.
That's a very famous quote by now going round, that if you rear snakes in your backyard, it is not as if they will not come to bite you, or they will come back to bite you as well. Mm-hmm. So the fact is that Pakistan has been exporting terror, certainly across the borders to India, and we have been bearing the brunt of it over the last several decades. Now, over the last few years, the situation in Pakistan has taken a turn for the worse. Mm-hmm. I think the inflection point was when the US troops withdrew from Afghanistan, because till then, the US needed Pakistan's active support in day-to-day maintenance of their troops, the logistic supply chain supply of their troops in Afghanistan. But once they've withdrawn, I think there a vacuum has been created, which initially Pakistan thought, initially Pakistan had hopes of creating strategic depth inside Afghanistan for themselves, but I think the tables have turned, and they are no longer able to wield the influence in the Afghan dispensation
Right.
as they hoped they could. And consequently, the terrorist groups in Pakistan have raised their head. Now, Pashtun problem is well known. They don't recognize the Durand line. Now, their own, you mentioned TTP yourself. So, what is happening on both sides of the Durand line is of concern. But I am an army man here. I have been fighting Pakistan terrorists or terrorists incited by Pakistan in our country, in Jammu and Kashmir and elsewhere. Yet, I will not wish, that terrorism disrupts the life of any country.
Right.
My heart goes out to those who died in this attack. Young recruits, young boys, civilians. This is the another scourge of terrorism. Whereas in olden days, armies used to fight the armies. An odd civilian death was called collateral damage. But in terrorism, you do not have collateral damage, because collateral damage is civilian targets. You actually target only the civilian targets. A railway
Right.
station is a civilian target. This time, no matter there was a few soldiers, but most of the terror attacks around the world are not on military installations, they are on civilian targets.
Right.
So coming back to the point, I think I will end by saying that today, this attack that has happened is sad, but whether it is Balochistan or Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Pakistan is having to really race with terrorism, fight terrorism with all its might. Pakistan is also on a very low spot economically, politically, diplomatically. So I think it's all adding to their troubles.
Fair enough.
But,
Let me take
if
that.
you will,
Yeah, I'll come back to you.
After I will like to say
Yeah,
later.
sure.
Later I will come back to your other question about what's happening in Kashmir and how is their role in that.
Fair enough,
Thank
fair
you.
enough, General Dua. Let me take that to senior journalist from Pakistan, Mr. Imtiaz Gul, joining us. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us. Mr. Dua said something very interesting. General Dua said that, there are troubles within Pakistan. Do you think that the Pakistan army, and we know perhaps it's a public knowledge that the real power center is in Rawalpindi, do you think they lack control when it comes to Pakistan today because of the frequent terror attacks, the frequent bombings that are happening? On an average, if you analyze the kind of attacks that are happening in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa or the former FATA areas, every day either a Frontier Corps personnel or a Pakistan Army personnel or a personnel associated with the Pakistan Army is being killed. Is this because of the political turmoil? Is this because of the kind of situation that Pakistan Army is in right now?
I think these are all very naive questions and observations raised first by you and then by General Dua. The primary question is who are TTP, ETIM or Daesh or BLA or BLF? Are they doing this just on their own, or are there external handlers of all these organizations? Because after all, if they are killing civilians as well as the security apparatus people, why would they be doing it? Do they want to seize the state of Pakistan? Can this ragtag army, TTP for instance, 6,000-7,000 people, hope to seize the state of Pakistan? Or can the BLF or BLA, the Baloch Liberation Army, really hope or dream to take over Balochistan, turn it into an independent Balochistan? It's certainly not the case. Yes, there are symptoms of a malaise. The snakes that you mentioned too, Hillary Clinton's talked about, now they're being fed by somebody else. And that's why we see this mayhem, that's why we see there's so much terrorism. Now, when we are dealing with proxy terrorism, that is very difficult to stop. That is very difficult to prevent, because the choice of the venue and timing always rests with those people who plan, who have a certain target in their eyes, and they just execute the threat. Yes, there are problems with the Pashtun grievances, with the Baloch grievances. They should be addressed much more diligently. We need a more effective policy to address the grievances of the Baloch youth in particular. But now to say that the entire Baloch youth is up in arms against the state of Pakistan is rubbish, I would say. It's not the majority of the Baloch youth. Their sense of deprivation must be addressed, no question about it. But the General and all you guys have to also raise a basic question: why would the TTP or Baloch Liberation Army or Baloch Liberation Front would be attacking Pakistanis in general indiscriminately?
Mr. Imtiaz Gul, but I respect your opinion, not only because you're a senior journalist, but also because when people like you speak up, the Pakistan Army or the ISI is known to enforce disappearance, and many senior journalists, activists, unfortunately, cannot speak the truth to power because they are immediately arrested or disappeared for years together. A lot of examples have also been seen. But there are other inconvenient questions, Mr. Imtiaz Gul. And these inconvenient questions are about Mahrang Baloch, who was stopped from going to New York when she was awarded. And she was not allowed because the Pakistan Army, who you spoke about, fears Mahrang Baloch. They fear democratic activists in Pakistan today, in Balochistan today. We also know the reality of how these snakes in the backyard of Lashkar-e-Toiba, of Jaish-e-Mohammed, of Hizbul Mujahideen, of Al-Badr are staying in Pakistan today, are getting safe haven even today, when Pakistan claims that they are also victims of terror and acting against them. The masterminds of 2611, the masterminds of all attacks that are happening and have been happening for years together in the Indian Union territory of Jammu and Kashmir are also staying and fed in Pakistan, and there are videos of Pakistani politicians whining and dining with them. But let's go across to Francesca Marinov, who for decades has been tracking Balochistan very closely. Francesca, how do you see these developments? You would of course say that it's not new. This kind of a armed rebellion has been happening for years together. But I personally see in the last 2 to 3 years a sudden shift and a sudden increase, not only in the armed rebellion, but also democratic voices like Mahrang Baloch coming ahead and actually asking tough questions to the Pakistan Army.
I see the situation worsening because of the total state of denial Pakistan is into. I mean, proxies, the general narrative is always, yes, these groups are somebody else's proxies.
Right.
Of course, Pakistan knows very well what does it mean using terrorists as proxies. Has been their foreign politics strategy for years and years. But I would not put Balochistan in the same league of other terrorist organizations. Mm-hmm. What Pakistan refused to address is not the deprivation of Balochistan youth. It is the fact that they are not fighting for a sense of deprivation. They are fighting, first of all, because they want independence. Mm-hmm. Second, people do disappear. People disappear every year more. Finally, of course, this made young people raised. They have been growing up in a state of war. They have been growing up in a place where you will never know whether your family or yourself will be back home when they go out. Mahrang Baloch, who's a educated girl, took the lead not of an armed revolt. She took the lead of a legal protest against the Pakistani state, asking not even for the return, just to know where the disappeared are, how they dealt with women and children and old people going to Islamabad to protest, showering them with water in the middle of the winter and refusing to talk to them. When there has been another protest, thousands of people peacefully in the street, what they did, they sent 2 killers to assassinate Marang.
Right.
She has been put in by Time magazine into the list of the most influential 100 young leaders of the world, invited to New York to attend the gala. What they do, they stop her. Then after 5 hours, she walks out of the airport. They stop her car, take the phones, take her passport, arrest the driver, take the car, and leave Marang and Sami Baluch in the middle of the night in the street. This is how, and then what explanation has been given? She's a troublemaker.
Right.
This is how Pakistan deals with troublemakers. Another troublemaker I know, who was a human rights activist, an Amnesty human rights activist, has been taken in full daylight and tried in front of a martial court, even though he's a civilian.
Right, right. I have one last question for General Dua. I know you've been patiently waiting. I have just 30 seconds, General Dua. The question of Imtiaz Gul, when he said that our questions on terrorism are naive, and the actual Baloch, BLA and TTP are funded from somebody else. But the question really remains that these terror groups were nurtured by Balochistan, at least the TTP in question. The Taliban for years together was given a safe haven, and Pakistan all their life thought that Afghanistan and Taliban will work as their team B over the years.
Like I said earlier, Pakistan was hoping to have strategic depth in Afghanistan. Things have just gone wrong for them. They thought, like you said, it would be their team B. I would also like to take the same kind of his question. He made a remark that what do these Baloch rebel think, or TTP think that they will suddenly seize power in Pakistan or make Balochistan an independent country. Actually, I would use the same sentences to say, what does Pakistan imagine, or the terrorist group imagine? That they will suddenly come to power, they will take Kashmir as a separate state from here. They've been trying the same things in Kashmir for years. Today, when suddenly over the last 5 years there is better development, there's a sea change in everything. When Article 370 happened, they made a lot of noise. And pardon my colloquies, but after doing everything else, Pakistan had to lump it. Then eventually we have a lot of prosperous development, everything happening, and then suddenly they thought there won't be elections. Everyone said we will not participate. Now there are peaceful elections. Not only peaceful, we've had participative elections. We've never had such polling percentages.
Fair enough, fair enough. General Dua, I'll have to cut you short because we are running out of time. Apologies for that, but thank you very much to Imtiaz Gul, General Dua and Francesca Marino for joining us. Pakistan can dream about Kashmir, but the reality is that Kashmir is much more prosperous than Karachi today, with the kind of violence that is witnessed in Karachi almost every possible day. The Baloch are upping the ante really against Pakistan, and of course, in time to come, it does seem that the security situation in Pakistan is certainly going to worsen.